As you might know, or maybe not, maybe you don't, I don't know. Hades 2 recently came out with a full 1.0 release less than a month ago. Oh my god, it's so good. The game's got a very simple story. You control Melinoe, God, I've tried doing this so many times. Attempting to save her family from her demented titan grandfather Chronos, who got out of the retirement home of Tartarus, along with gaining a series of boons with absolute eye-candy deities that will make you question your sexuality, no doubt about that.
Chat, they made them hot.
However, rather than dying and respawning, you're instead thrown all the way back to the beginning before your run, where you can talk with NPCs in the crossroads, and is that fucking Odysseus? The game pretty much encourages you to pick up a series of resources and establishing relationships through gift giving to gain various bonuses and potential rewards before beating the retired titan back to tartar sauce. Personally, I love this game concept, and if you do too, let me assure you, it's not the only one. Apart from its predecessor, there are many games that carry this same concept under a different name with few differences. Dead Cells, Enter the Gungeon, Slay the Spire, The Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, and many, many more. These games all belong under the genre name roguelike. But what the fuck is a roguelike, you might be asking? Well, by definition, a roguelike is a subgenre of video game based off the 1985 game Rogue. I know, really showing age here. Without going into too much detail, each of these games generally carry the same characteristics. You've got some procedurally generated levels that are random every time you start a run, as well as whenever your character dies anywhere within a run, and I mean anywhere. You start back from the very beginning, this being a mechanic known as permadeath, because it's permanent death. You get it? There's also a whole thing with comparisons between roguelikes and roguelites, but I'm not gonna go that far. I'm sure there's a Redditor who can do a much better job than I can. Now, personally, for me, I love roguelikes. Of course, not every roguelike is necessarily perfect, but when it comes to the market of those games today, there seems to be a plethora of bangers for said games. But why is that? Why are they so fun to play? Why am I addicted to roguelike crack? Well, let's dive a little more into what makes roguelikes, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying genres in video game history. Back around pre-cough time or so, I happened across a game that I found with nothing but sheer curiosity and wonder. That game was Enter the Gungeon, a game developed by Dodge Roll and published by Devolver Studios that involves a handful of characters with the objective to enter the Gungeon. Yeah, could have fooled me. And the main objective is essentially to kill your past. That time you got a bad grade on a report card, gone. That one cringy memory of you calling your teacher mom, gone. That one time your dad beat you with a belt. At the time, I watched Ray Narvaez Jr., my Oshi, play this game through his VODs and thought, oh, this game looks cool, and it's $15 too? I'm broke as shit and owe money to the local addict behind the dollar store, but I think I'll give it a shot. When I tell you I spent well over 100 hours playing this game in my first year alone, I mean it. Only really not having more just with other games I was playing at the time and school, because of course, it was one of the most played games I had at the time. Aside from the original Overwatch, but we don't talk about that, something just kind of clicked with how the game felt. I was looking up different guns on the wiki, ways to get the secret rooms and levels and bosses, getting perfects and attempting rainbow runs over and over again. It never got boring for me. With the amount of weapons and colorful characters and challenge, it was hard to put down most days. It was like Devolver was spoon-feeding me dopamine like I was a little toddler baby infant baby. I became fascinated and felt addicted to what kind of game this was. At the time, for some reason, I didn't really give most other games a try until a little later. It wasn't until much later with one of them I happened to play on the exact release date. That game was Hades. This was about post-cough time or so. I bought it on my Switch while over at a friend's place one day, easily for about $25. And one of the first thing I thought was, God, why are they all so fucking hot? The art was gorgeous, the gameplay felt fluid and fast, the characters and story were intriguing, and once again, just like with Gungeon, it was hard to put down. It's another simple story as well. You play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, escaping from his home to not get whipped by the belt in order to learn the truth about himself and his real mother, Persephone. You battle through several randomly generated rooms with the help of boons from the gods, interacting with NPCs in the House of Hades, and within your run, runs, and through trial and error, death after countless death, do you finally reach your goal. Only once you win, you're encouraged to go again. It became clear to me there was something that enticed me with this genre of game. Each carried an individual weight and uniqueness in their code, but carried similar characteristics altogether, like the permadeath and random generation, and oftentimes just satisfying gameplay to boot. It led me to exploring more of my horizons, with trying out games like Risk of Rain 2, Spelunky, Dead Cells, and even the original Rogue, which is definitely shown its age. This was a journey I had taken upon myself and realized how genuinely fun and addicting these kinds of games really were. There were layers of replayability and creativity going into them that you wouldn't really find in some other genres. Risk of Rain 2 offered large areas and multiple characters to play and experiment with, similar to Vampire Survivors in a 3D area. That sounds familiar. Go play Megabonk, go play Megabonk, go play Megabonk, go play Megabonk, go play Megabonk. Dead Cells gives a straightforward entry into the many enemies and areas with a unique pixelated art style, along with plenty of areas and secrets to explore. The Binding of Isaac offered a simplistic yet addicting style of gameplay as an early predecessor to the roguelike genre. Slay the Spire gives an unexpected style of play with using cards rather than the average action in most other games, yet offers plenty of strategy to outsmart the enemies. And that list goes on and on in terms of uniqueness. Now, overall, I want to go over a really quick summary of why exactly, in a psychological and design-wise perspective, roguelikes are satisfying altogether. Roguelikes have permadeath, as we discussed, meaning a significant loss on defeat and making the victory much more well-earned over cheaper victories. This brings the player back for more, taking on enemies and bosses in search of any potential gains that they might have. Take Hades, for example. Zagreus constantly dies to bosses and even basic enemies, but with each encounter, the player takes in valuable information on how to defeat enemies and begin another run. With each boss's defeat, you use better builds and items such as NPCs' keepsakes and future weapons like, I don't know, a literal gun. The game is literally rewarding you for coming back and taking on bigger and better challenges with the likelihood of receiving better gear in the future. There's even trials in the game known as the Pact of Punishment that lets you change up the difficulty, like increasing enemy damage or even giving bosses whole new moves to use, because that's fun. Well, at least when it's done, you get some decent rewards like statues of Skelly. Yeah. Adapting through success and failure grants the player a keen sense of the game and its mechanics, making the player adapt on the fly and trying new tactics to succeed. This creates critical thinking skills unlike the average Redditor, and learn enemy types and movements to overcome a run. In Slay the Spire, you can use cards to beat each enemy, but dying and coming back helps you to learn what are the best ways to play certain cards in order, or how do you conserve certain cards for a later turn, learning to remain patient and adapt to the enemy's moves, like playing Pot of Greed and drawing 3 cards. Hades, of course, has this too, as do most other roguelikes, in which you need to die over and 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 over. Let's move on. Every single run is different. No 2 runs are ever the same, which adds new possibilities for whatever may come and avoids repetition while encouraging adaptability through new runs. You can always expect something entirely different unless you are manually inputting an OP seed, like a coward, Michael. One run you may be running with the best build imaginable, only a few minutes in, and the other you're fighting tooth and nail to work with what kind of dark magic you can on the worst enemies possible. Yes, I'm using Hades again as an example, shut up, but Hades 2 grants different enemies and boons per run, with the chance to either find something extremely beneficial or very dangerous. This allows the player to remain alert to any possible findings and adapt on the fly with careful consideration. Even getting used to the gods fighting for your approval and kicking your shit in if you don't choose the right one. Because of course, mommy is always right in the divorce. Usually depending on the games, some games provide strategy with combining abilities and items through broken ways, increasing the player's curiosity by making gameplay more interesting and building the chance to use a broken build. It encourages wanting to discover and combine any weapons that a player could come across to gain the advantage in tougher runs. Take Enter the Gungeon, for example, as guns and items that, when combined, they can grant certain effects to provide an additional support and put to effective use. One happens to be the scope passive item with the sniper rifle or the AWP, with the name, yes, I'm not joking, the 360 Yes Scope, just like what the government did to JFK on November 27th. Runs in these games, as many as you can do, there's a reason for that because they are also insanely short. Or sometimes long, but if they're long, that might be a problem on your end. Some runs can go for as long as about an hour in most cases, granting enough time to put into a game without needing to actually fully commit, but just kind of testing the waters, unlike some 50 to 100 hour like games like Persona and Final Fantasy. I'm just kidding, play Persona and Final Fantasy, they're really good. But if you simply just don't have the time to really play games for that long, that's totally fine. With these kinds of games, you can only commit for about just at least, at most, at something like that, about an hour. What? Too long, didn't fucking listen. Roguelikes are one of the most satisfying genres in video games today. That's my opinion, but I also think it's absolute fact. Deal with it. They're easy to pick up, they're very affordable, and carry endless amounts of potential for catching on and playing for hours without ever getting bored. Every failure turns into a chance to grow in each game as well. Each attempt and little victory carries hope that maybe the next run, maybe just this one, will be the one where you succeed. Where Zagreus and Melanoe will accomplish their roles in the underworld, where the Gungeoneers will claim the bullet to kill the past, or even something more, and where you, the player, will enjoy a new journey over and over again. Or go play Battlefield 6 maybe, I don't know, it looks pretty cool. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching the video, I really do appreciate it. This was my first ever attempt at making an actual video that's not just me re-uploading my VODs from Twitch, so it's a bit less than what I would have liked, but honestly I'm happy to get it out there rather than never at all. If you liked what you saw, please leave a comment for the video, smash that subscribe button, but maybe take it to dinner first so it's not weird, and come check me out on Twitch where I stream sometimes and all my other socials in the description. I also have a VOD channel for posting my streams, so check that out too. With that said, I hope to see you all soon. Take care everybody, I love you, and bye-bye.